Hello children, now we move on to the second module of the story, Jane Eyre at Lowood Institution. In the first module, we saw how Jane felt when she was punished and called a liar by Mr. Brocklehurst. She cried bitterly and Helen Burns was trying to console her. Now I move to page number 51, the second last paragraph. Mr. Brocklehurst is little liked here. Had he treated you as a special favourite, you would have found enemies, declared or covered, all around you. As it is, the greater number would offer you sympathy if they dared. Teachers and pupils may look coldly at you for a day or two, but friendly feelings are concealed in their hearts. And if you persevere in doing well, these feelings will ere long appear much more evidently, especially after their temporary suppression. Besides Jane, she paused. Now here, Helen Burns is trying to console her. She's just trying to say what others are feeling about Mr. Brocklehurst. Okay, so she says that what others think in that Lowood institution about Mr. Brocklehurst is that he's not a much liked person here. If Mr. Brocklehurst would have treated her as a special favorite, she would have found many enemies there. Some will openly show their enmity. Some will not show openly. The word covered means not to show openly. And many would have offered sympathy. Now, teachers and students may look at her coldly. The word coldly means not showing any warmth. But they have friendly or positive feelings which are hidden in their hearts. They will behave like this only for 1 or 2 days. But if Jane continued to do well, these cold feelings will soon disappear and they will soon start liking her. They will become friendly. Then Helen pauses or stops for a few seconds. The word covered means not to show openly. The word concealed means hidden. Persevere means to continue. The word evidently means clearly. The word suppression means to stop forcibly. And in the end of this paragraph, we can see Jane stops suddenly. Now I move on to the next paragraph. Where Helen, said I, putting my hand into hers. She chafed my fingers gently to warm them and went on. If all the world hated you and believed you to be wicked, while your own conscience approved you and absolved you from guilt, you would not be without friends. Now, Jane wanted to know why suddenly Helen stopped suddenly, isn't it? So she slowly holds Helen's hand and she slowly rubbed Jane's fingers and told her that if the whole world hated her or believed that she was wicked, she should do what is right according to her conscience. And if she acts according to her conscience, she will never be lonely or without friends. One should always do things which you feel is right or true, isn't it? You should do something which is correct according to your conscience. And then you will always have enough friends with you. Here, Helen believes that one's conscience is more important than public support. The word chaff means to rub. The word absolved means to declare. Now, the next paragraph. I know I should think well of myself, but that is not enough. If others do not love me, I would rather die than live. I cannot bear to be solitary and hated. To gain some real affection from you or Miss Temple or any other whom I truly love, I would willingly submit to have the bone of my arm broken or let a bull toss me, or again she stops. Now, here you can see that Jane is trying to be a bit dramatic, you can see, children. So, Jane says that she knows what Helen is speaking is correct. Helen is giving her right advice, and she should think good about herself. But if others don't love her, then what is the use? She cannot think of living a lonely life, hated by others. She would prefer to die rather than live a lonely, sad life. She wanted to get some real affection from those whom she loved, for example, Helen or Miss Temple or anybody else. She's even ready to get the bone of her arm broken or being tossed by a bull, which means she's ready to bear pain. She declares that she would do anything for the love of those whom she admires. Here, the word solitary means lonely. The words willingly submit means she's ready to do anything. So, here, Jane is talking in a very dramatic manner, a bit not exactly show off, but a sort of like she's ready to do anything to get true love. She's even ready to bear pain. Now, the next paragraph. Hush, Jane. You think too much of the love of human beings. Besides, this earth, there is an invisible world and a kingdom of spirits, and those spirits watch us, for they are commissioned to guard us. I know you are innocent of this charge, which Mr. Brocklehurst has weakly and pompously repeated at second hand from Mrs. Reed, for I read sincerity in your eyes. Now, the words weakly and pompously means you can say Mr. Brocklehurst has created a show just to make fun of this Jane. So here Helen gives her the idea of the world she thinks. According to Helen, Jane is giving too much importance to human love and affection. She says that there is an unseen world and a land of angels. Good spirits, she means to say that. And these good spirits should guard us. They will take care of us. She said that all these false, accusations made by Mr. Brocklehurst is just because of Mrs. Reed. Helen knows that Jane is innocent, and Mr. Brocklehurst had put up a show of accusation because of Mrs. Reed's. Helen can see sincerity or truthfulness in her eyes. The next paragraph. I was silent. Helen had calmed me. I rested my head on Helen's shoulder. We had not sat long thus when another person came in. So, when she heard this encouraging words from Helen, Jane felt very calm, you can say. So she was quiet. Helen had calmed her down. Helen was a matured, understanding friend. Jane felt a bit okay, and she just rested her head on Helen's shoulder. Then they saw someone was coming in. Someone walked in. Now I move on to the next paragraph, children. I came on purpose to find you, Jane Eyre, said Miss Temple. I want you in my room, and as Helen Burns is with you, she may come too. We followed the superintendent to her apartment. It contained a good fire and looked cheerful. Miss Temple told Helen Burns to be seated in a low armchair on one side of the hearth, and herself taking another, she called me to her side. The words came on purpose to find you means to find you. She came searching for you. The word apartment means house, and the word hearth means the fireplace. So who had come in, children? It was Miss Temple. She came searching for Jane. She had come to call Jane to her room. And as Helen Burns was with Jane, she asked both of them to come to her room. So they both went to Miss Temple's apartment, that is a house, and they saw that it was a warm and cozy place. Miss Temple was the superintendent of the Lowood institution. She lived in a good apartment. Miss Temple asked Helen to sit on a low armchair near the fireplace. Then she herself sat on a chair and she called Jane to her side. She wanted to ask something. Now to the next paragraph. Is it all over? She asked, looking down at my face. Have you cried your grief away? I'm afraid I never shall do that. Why? Because I have been wrongly accused, and you, ma'am, and everybody else will now think me wicked. Then she asked Jane if she had finished crying. Crying your grief away means to weep bitterly till you feel better, till the sorrow is washed away. Then Jane says that she is falsely blamed, she is wrongly accused, and everyone else, including Miss Temple, will believe that she was a liar or a bad girl. Isn't it? Now we move on to the next paragraph. We shall think you what you prove yourself to be, my child. Continue to act as a good girl, and you will satisfy us. Shall I, Miss Temple? You will, she said, putting her arm round me. Now tell me, who is the lady whom Mr. Brocklehurst called your benefactress? But Miss Temple is an understanding lady, a very soft-natured woman. She doesn't scold Jane. She just says that they shall believe what she proves herself to be. Then she advises Jane to continue behaving as a good girl, and they will be happy. Jane was delighted to hear that. Miss Temple asks her about the lady whom Mr. Brocklehurst had called her benefactress. Benefactress means a woman who helped somebody by giving money or some support. Who was she here, children? It was Mrs. Reed. Now, again the next paragraph. Mrs. Reed's, my uncle's wife. My uncle is dead, and he left me to her care. Did she not then adopt you of her own accord? No, ma'am. She was sorry to have to do that. I have often heard that my uncle got her to promise before he died that she would always keep me. So here, Jane tells about Mrs. Reed to Miss Temple. She says that Mrs. Reed was her uncle's wife. She had lost her uncle, and Mrs. Reed was supposed to take care of her. Miss Temple wants to know if Mrs. Reed had adopted her. She had willingly accepted Jane as her own daughter. Willingly means on own accord. Own accord means she has accepted her. Then Jane reveals her sad story. Mrs. Reed was never ready to adopt Jane, and she was sorry as she had to finally adopt her. In fact, she adopted Jane because her uncle had got her to promise to take care of Jane before he died. Now I move on to the next paragraph. Well, Jane, when a criminal is accused, he is always allowed to speak in his own defense. You have been charged with falsehood. Defend yourself to me as well as you can. Say whatever your memory suggests is true, but add nothing and exaggerate nothing. Criminal means someone who has done something wrong. Accused means to blame someone. The word exaggerate means to make something more greater or more noticeable by adding something to it. Here Miss Temple gives her a chance to prove her innocence. She knows that Mr. Brocklehurst had falsely accused her, so she wants Jane to defend herself. She wants her to speak the truth without adding any extra stories to it. Now, the next paragraph. I resolved in the depth of my heart that I would be moderate, most correct. Having reflected a few minutes to arrange coherently what I had to say, I told her the story of my sad childhood. I felt as I went on that Miss Temple fully believed me. The word resolved means decided. Coherently means to arrange clearly and logically. So in this paragraph we see that Helen decided to speak the truth. She thought for a few minutes and tried to logically arrange the things that she had to say. She told her sad, tragic childhood, and she was sure that Miss Temple had trusted her. Miss Temple had believed what all she had said. Now, I come to the end of the second module.